Catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.
Calvin Harris featuring Justin Timberlake and Halsey with Stay With Me. That is an amazing song. It is Africa Tech Radio, or my name is Lilian, and today is Thursday. People who know me know that Thursdays are my favorite time of the week. Do you know why? I reminisce a lot. I go into time, like I'm the person in the group that will remember what happened 12 years ago and tell you word for word what happened and tell you scenario by scenario what happened. And you guys will be like, how did you remember that? I think I remember what we were talking about, but how your mind go there. That is me. I will always be the person that remembers a lot of things. I'm the kind of person that will watch a movie 200 times just because I enjoyed it. I have seen Sound of Music. If I tell you a number, that means I'm lying. But I've seen Sound of Music every year since I was a kid, since I was a preteen. I saw it first when I was a toddler, I'm sure, because my dad bought it earlier and we always see all the movies together. Then I saw it again when I was I think I was like 11 or 10. I saw it again. From that time, every year I see Sound of Music. Sometimes I see it twice in a year. It depends on how nostalgic I feel. So that is the kind of person I am. I've seen Friends season 1 to 10 3 times, and now I have it on my Netflix downloaded because it's my feel good movie or series. So that is the kind of person I am. I am the person who's it can be dangerous to stay in the past, but I don't just stay there. I visit and I come back to reality. Sometimes you just need to take a trip down memory lane so that you can remain sane. When you think about the good old days, think about fun times, you take a little bit of sanity and come back to reality. Wow. Okay. You can jot that down. Yeah, my name is Lilian, and today, Thursday, we give you Take Me Back. On Take Me Back, do you know what happens? Pretty simple. We go back into time in tech, right? Talk about how tech innovations were used back then. What kind of innovations were introduced then? Is it still being used now? Was it a fail? Is it something that can make a comeback? Last week, we talked about something different. You see, I will never stop being grateful for tech, for inventors, innovators, and others who put 2 and 2 together to make 4. I still have to count on my fingers, And tech has come a long way, and it can be better. Everything can be better, of course. They had the post office, and they felt like, okay, well, I'm reaching my friend in the UK from Nigeria, even if it takes a while for the letter to get to her. And even if sometimes it can get lost in the mail, but I'll reach my friend in another country. I think that is good enough. But somebody says, no. I think we can do better. I think we can make this show. I think we can be able to hear their voices. Yeah? How will we do that? Okay, it's very simple. Install a telephone. I would do something called a telephone. And the person did it, right? He did it. And we were able to talk to people from all over, but you need to go through a control system. It was so chaotic and all that. And then they said, no, it can be better, right? And now we've come all the way from the post offices, the way we go to drop our letters in the mail, to telephones, landlines, to phone booths. There were phone booths. I remember back then when I was younger, the estate where I grew up, there were phone booths in some parts of the estate. So if you want to make calls, you go into the red phone booth and make calls to another person. Tell the person to wait by the phone booth at the other side, and the person will. That's how they used to communicate until these phones started going into homes, and now it's like a mobile phone that can do everything. Tech, you are amazing, and the innovators are even more amazing. Everything can always be improved. There is this saying in mass communication that there is no copy that cannot be improved upon. Right? Last week on Take Me Back, I told you of how tech was used in the medical field in the past. And then I promised on my honor as a scholar, I will do my... I'm sorry. It's Throwback Thursday. What did you expect? So I promised that I was going to continue today. All right. So today I'll be telling you about some products used in the medical field in the past to cure ailments. You know the drill. Just stay on this space. Take Me Back, Africa Tech Radio. My name is Lilian. Enjoy the song, The Solitude Alarm by Anne-Marie. That is another thing that has evolved with time. When I was young, I would say, Mommy, please wake me up by 6 o'clock. Our parents were alarm clocks. Now, if you're like me, who would have to set, if I'm trying to set an alarm for 4 p.m., I will set alarm from 1. I'll set 1, 2, 2:30, 3, 3:30, 3:45, 4 before I'll be able to wake up. Like, I need to be eased into waking up. Don't rush me, please. You don't have to call your mom to wake you up at a certain time. Some people still do that because no matter how the alarm rings, they will never wake up. This is Anne-Marie with Alarm. There goes the alarm in my head. Right now, my head is doing I won't tell you why. It has nothing to do with hunger. I just ate. I'm sorry. Yeah, so it is Tech Me back on Africa Tech Radio. You heard a song from Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie is one of the people that I saw her and then I said, okay, your voice is amazing. I didn't say in person, her videos, right? She has a powerful voice just like Dua Lipa. And it is not easy. Every day you see that kind of unique voice. There's no time I'll hear Anne-Marie's voice or Dua Lipa's voice and I wouldn't recognize those voices. Just like Rihanna and Beyonce, having unique voices. It's just amazing, or amazeballs, if I want to mess with you. So I told you I was going to tell you about some tech inventions that were introduced in the medical field way back, in the past. And I just want to start with this one, okay? Because it's just so hilarious. Now imagine that, okay, it's hilarious because it has happened, but it was not hilarious back then. You get what I'm trying to say, right? Like when you're thinking about, how these things were used and you're like, are you kidding me? Who signed off of these things? Who signed off on them? Like, didn't you guys go to school, or wasn't like common sense introduced in that era? Or was it, anything one influential person says, that's everything we'll go for? I don't understand. But what am I saying? Now, imagine you see your child coughing, right? Or is just uneasy. Maybe the child is teething and then they have diarrhea. And then you're like, oh, what can I do to help my child? I'd like to help my child get better. And then you see an advert of a soothing syrup. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's a soothing syrup. Thank God, my child is going to be better. And the advert says, Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup should always be used for children teething. It soothes the child, softens the gums, allays all pain, cures wild colic, and is the best remedy for diarrhea. And it is 25 cents a bottle. You say, oh my gosh, you can put a price on happiness. My child has to be happy, so I'll just do this for my child, right? And you buy it and you're giving your child a drink. And then one day on the news, you'll be like, here, Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup has been withdrawn all over the country because of some ingredients found in the syrup. And you're like, excuse me? What ingredients are you talking about? So what happened back then was that this soothing syrup, it was popular all over the place. Think about a syrup or a medicine that is everywhere in Nigeria right now, or in the world, and you understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, imagine that popularity, and then they're raising dust concerning this particular brand. So what secret ingredients were in this soothing syrup? What they found out was that there's a heavy percentage of alcohol and morphine in the syrup. Now, of course, you know what alcohol is. And in many states in the US, you cannot be less than 21 years to be able to take alcohol. And in Nigeria, you have to be at least 18 years, right? So if they say alcohol should not be taken by children and people under the age of 18 or 21, it depends on your country, right? And then they're giving it to a baby. Like, what are you thinking? Putting alcohol in a syrup. Morphine is another thing that's found there. And in case you don't know what morphine is a strong opiate that is found naturally in opium, a dark brown resin in poppies. It is mainly used as a pain medication and is commonly used recreationally to make other illicit opioids. Okay, morphine is a very, very strong painkiller and people get addicted to it. They prescribe morphine in some places when they have serious injuries from like accident or cancer or heart attack or something. But then people can get addicted to this, and so they don't like prescribing morphine. But these things were in a soothing syrup that was used back then. It was terrible. Of course, it's a no-brainer that the soothing syrup, along with others, was condemned and they withdrew it. They were called baby killers, no longer Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup. So back then, if you valued your child's life and health, then like wherever you get a bottle, and I think this was the reason when over the years they realized that a lot of people were just introducing different things to innocent people, and because people need to get these things, they need to get better, they buy it. So they had to be regulations, and regulations were put in. But before that, a lot of other things were introduced. Now imagine you have an illness and they say you have shortage of blood, and it's okay. In the world right now, if you have shortage of blood, all they will do is to have a blood transfusion or give you a supplement that will help boost blood. But if you have like too low blood, they will have to give you a blood transfusion. Now imagine that you go to the hospital to get a transfusion, and what they put in your body is milk. Yeah, they used to give milk transfusions back then in the late 19th century. They said that milk was the perfect substitute for blood. Like, where did you get this from? Because of the fatty and oily qualities of milk, and they said that will help the white blood cells. But of course now, when they tried it for a couple of people, yes, it was successful. Because you know what they call beginner's luck? Sometimes you think that you've got it, you are the man, I'm the man, I get time for head, oh you did my head, and then you try it again, doesn't work, you try it again, doesn't work. It's like gambling, right? You do it for the first time and you get luck, beginner's luck, and then you want to spend your whole life gambling. Bro, you will finish your money, you finish your entire money, and I'm telling you this so that you will take care. And that was what these medical practitioners used to think and hinge their hopes on. The very few people it works on, and they think that okay, that's it. There's a reason right now that you have to go through like a clinical trial for a long time before you can put any drug in the market. You try on ages, you try on sex, you try on different people, demographic, different people, just until you are sure that there's no side effects. There are people who come in to apply for this clinical trial, something that they get paid for drug tests, or others maybe because it's to treat, let's say, Alzheimer's or something, or dementia or something, and they need volunteers, people who already have these diseases, and of course they're not getting better. Those are the people that you can put in clinical trials. You don't just take anybody and you use people as lab rats, no. So back then, the initial tests, the initial transfusions were successful, but as the time went on, people started dying. There's one example that they gave that the injection of milk dropped the patient's pulse immediately. Imagine when the pulse is beaten, and immediately there was no pulse, and the person had to be resuscitated with a combination of that morphine I spoke about, and they used alcohol. The patient only lived 10 days after the operation, so of course they had to stop that as well. There are many other things that were introduced. Yes, they needed a lot of hits, but in the process they got a lot of misses, right? Yeah, and it is normal. It is normal in every situation, but it can be deadly when it comes to medicine, comes to something that will save one's life. Send me away, Nasty C, Roy Lean. It is Take Me Back, Africa Tech Radio. Of course, it's Throwback Thursday as well, so that's why I'm giving you some old songs as well. Send Me Away, I loved. It's not so old, but Nasty C did a number of this song. He did a number in this one, and he did it with Roy Lean. In fact, the entire album back then was amazing. I can't wait for something as lit as this from Nasty C. I'm Lilian, and you're listening to Africa Tech Radio. Oh, sometimes I imagine myself being the musician behind these great songs. I mean, you should see me performing now. Musician, too bad. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for that. I was just, vibing to the song because it's amazing. I know I call a lot of songs amazing, but this one is 911, Mary J. Blige, Wyclef Jean, and it is just, I was singing like, Anyway, it is Take Me Back, Africa Tech Radio. I'm telling you about some tech innovations and how they were used in the medical scene. And it is just surprising, to tell you the truth. I don't know, not to be judgmental or anything, but we're not thinking, we're not thinking. Now, there's an advertisement that I saw about cigarettes, right? They were advertising cigarettes, and they said it relieves hay fever, asthma, and rose fever. I mean, you have asthma and then you go to the doctor and you say, "Hey doc, so I am finding it very difficult to breathe right now. I need you to prescribe something for me." And the guy said, "Take the cigarette and smoke it." Anyway, pardon? What's the goodness? Kilewi? Which other language can I use? Because you know better now, but they didn't know better back then. They said that cigarettes cured asthma. But right now, everybody knows that it exacerbates it. It makes it worse. It makes it even terrible. But what's interesting about the treatment is that it was already known that cigarettes had an undesirable effect. Of course, they know that when you take cigarettes, you cannot breathe properly, you cough and everything. But then they're still promoting it for the cure of asthma. I don't understand. Another thing that was promoted for the cure of asthma was chloroform. Chloroform is something that was believed to be a cure for asthma. Right? It was claimed that, and in an article that was shared, it said death was accidental. Finding of coroner's jury in case of Mrs. Pearson, overdose of chloroform. It had been taken to relieve the pain following a very serious attack of asthma. So that was like a notice of death, and they said why that person died. And so said that chloroform was used to, reduce the effect of asthma at that moment, and the person took too much. So back then, I had to read on this. It was introduced as a cure for asthma, so they inhale it, right? And so that to calm the person down. But then people started dying because of the overdose of chloroform. If you've seen movies, I'm a movie person, so I'm going to be referencing a lot of movies, okay, or movie scenes. So somebody's in front, you're sitting on the driver's seat. You just enter the car, you want to start the car, and then somebody behind you is waiting for you behind your car. Not you, someone else's car. I'm Nigerian, so I don't want to be superstitious. Yeah, so they're waiting for you, and then you see a white handkerchief. They used to put it across somebody's mouth, and the person just, falls asleep or passes out. The thing they put on the handkerchief is chloroform to make the person pass out, right? But then they now use that chloroform to cure asthma. How? Tell me, how is it done? It's just crazy. The things that they use are touch and go before they found the exact cures for these things right now. I mean, it can be better. We are still evolving, aren't we? And there's some other things that were used back then to treat different illnesses. And just because someone that is high ranking in society introduced this thing, somebody else will say, okay, let us use it. Let's go with him. He must be smart. Wow. Okay, let's move on, please. Let me not dwell on this. Now, there's another thing that was discovered to be used back then to attempt to cure some other things. And one of those things are Coke. You know Coke? I'm talking about the white substance that is illegal in everywhere, really. Coke is illegal, but they use Coke to cure sore throat. In fact, there's this story I read that one of those fizzy drinks that we take right now, sodas, contained Coke in the Beninging. That is why it has the name that it has. But I'm not going to dwell on that right now. So, because, of course, if I come to you and you're a certified doctor or physician and you tell me, Lilian, you have to put your head in the toilet seat for 10 hours and you'll be cured. And, as naive as I am, I'll put my head in the toilet for 10 hours because I want to be cured. And that is how these people lived their lives back then. But I'm not going to exhaust all this today. I'm going to allow you to enjoy some beautiful music, and we're going to continue another time on this particular theme, the medical scene. Then we'll move over to another field, all right? Yes, there are different things they used. They also used kerosene to cure an ailment as well, but I'll tell you about that some other time, okay? This song is from Wizkid, Holla at Your Boy. Africa Tech Radio, take me back.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.